Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. Andrew Wiggins was traded by the Warriors at a difficult time in his brilliant NBA career. Wiggins was away from the court for a long time due to family problems. Wiggins is loved by Warriors fans, who would accept with great pride if the Warriors brought him back to San Francisco. The Golden State Warriors are one of the few teams that suffer from having too many good players on their roster. Recently, one player has reportedly gained interest from both the Chicago Bulls and Miami Heat. Warriors forward Jonathan Kuminga will be eligible for restricted free agency this summer, but his future in Golden State is uncertain, Hoops Hype's Michael Scotto stated Monday. The Chicago Bulls and Miami Heat are two teams to monitor as potential sign-and-trade candidates for Kuminga, league sources told Hoops Hype. With that in mind, the Warriors have also not ruled out the possibility of retaining Kuminga, sources said. Kuminga has yet to find his role with the Warriors, getting inconsistent minutes on a team trying to compete. The 22-year-old has shown heaps of potential. The past 2 years, he has averaged over 15 points per game. Now that the Dubs have Jimmy Butler, Kuminga's minutes have suffered because of their similar role. When Butler went down in the playoffs, Kuminga stepped up. Rumors surrounding the fourth-year player have been consistent, and many trades could benefit from his potential. Everybody knows the Warriors are in need of a true center, which both of these teams have. If they could work out a sign and trade consisting of multiple pieces around Kuminga for either Nikola Vucevic or Bam Adebayo, this would put them in a great position for next year. Several trade options: the Warriors could choose to trade Jonathan Kuminga. 31 Warriors offseason scenarios. Part 1, the case for re-signing Jonathan Kuminga. What kind of roster could the Warriors construct if they retain Jonathan Kuminga? The Golden State Warriors season is long over, and with the NBA Finals on the verge of ending, the offseason will officially soon be upon us. So, naturally I began a process of attempting to run through the Warriors offseason as if I was in the basketball operations department to prepare myself for as many possibilities as possible. Normally I keep most of these notes, which are ultimately just my educated guesses, to myself, but I figured I would share them this year in hopes of helping readers get a sense of the scope of possibilities available to General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. as he works with Joe Lacob and Steve Kerr to build the 2025-26 team. I ended up compiling 31 different scenarios, 32 if you count the Desmond Bane trade that I had to cut after he was traded to the Magic, and split them into 3 different parts centered around the Dubs' biggest offseason conundrum, Jonathan Kuminga. Below are 6 scenarios for the Warriors' offseason predicated on the team re-signing Kuminga. I am using a 4-year, $100 million contract estimate with a starting salary of $22.5 million for Kuminga. While that may be lower than he is hoping for at the moment, a return to Golden State likely coincides with a light market. Scenario 1, easy. Sign Brook Lopez using taxpayer mid-level exception, TPMLE, 1 year, $5.7 million with player option. Re-sign Jonathan Kuminga, 4 years, $100 million, starting salary $22.5 million. Sign Monty Morris, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Gary Payton 2, 1 year, minimum salary. PG, Steph Curry, Monty Morris. SG, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield. SF, Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody, Gary Payton 2. PF, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Gue Santos. C, Brook Lopez, Quinton Post, Tracy Jackson Davis, 41st overall pick. It may be boring, but if the Warriors can land either Brook Lopez or Al Horford, Lopez's Bay Area ties make him seem more viable. Using the TPMLE, there is a pretty strong case for running things back with a similar group next season. The fact is Buddy Hield, Moses Moody, and Jonathan Kuminga are Golden State's 3 most likely trade chips. Yet, Hield and Moody were critical to the Warriors' success after the Jimmy Butler trade. Hield is one of the best shooters in the league and improved defensively. Despite his late-season struggles, Moody has consistently improved as a 3-and-D wing and shot 37.4% from 3 last season on more than 300 attempts. Trading either player will weaken Golden State's wing depth behind Butler, a late-career player with a long injury history. Trading Hield or Moody to solidify the Warriors' center position is justifiable, but landing a free agent like Lopez makes that a moot point. The Dubs will likely still want an upgrade at backup point guard, but that's the deepest position in this free agent class. There should be a couple solid options available to Golden State on veteran minimum contracts. All that leaves Kuminga, whose uncomfortable fit with the Warriors is well documented. Still, the Dubs' biggest need on the roster is pure scoring. Curry is in his late 30s and the next two most important players on the roster, Butler and Draymond Green, prefer deferring to teammates for scoring. It seems like there should be enough runway for Kuminga to either be a scoring sixth man or the starting power forward that allows Green to shift to a lower usage impact bench role a la late career Andre Iguodala. Given Gary Payton II's defensive impact and familiarity, he seems like an obvious reunion candidate on the veterans minimum. It's possible that another contender desperate for a defensive wing is willing to use a small exception to offer Payton a raise, but his injury history and erratic shooting make that unlikely. Meanwhile, Monty Morris is a veteran point guard with some offensive punch that would add a solid change of pace option to the bench. The Warriors would enter the season around $900,000 below the second apron, which would be a hard cap because of the TPMLE. Still, they would be able to aggregate contracts and trades and maintain the flexibility Kuminga, Moody, and Hield's contracts should give them. Scenario 2, Emma Wagner. Trade Moses Moody to the Magic for Emma Wagner. Re-sign Jonathan Kuminga, 4 years, $100 million, starting salary $22.5 million. Sign Trey Jones using TPMLE, 1 year, $5.7 million with player option. Re-sign Gary Payton II, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Braxton Key, non-guaranteed 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Pat Spencer, non-guaranteed 1 year, minimum salary. PG, Steph Curry, Trey Jones, Pat Spencer. SG, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield, 41st overall pick. SF, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, Braxton Key. PF, Draymond Green, Gary Payton II, Gue Santos. C. Emma Wagner, Quentin Post, Tracy Jackson Davis. Get ready for a lot of trades involving the Warriors and Magic. Orlando has several big men whose salaries fall in the $8 to $15 million range. They are expected to shop this offseason in search of shooting. The Magic traded massive draft capital for Desmond Bane, but would still be advised to use their center depth to add some more outside threats. Both Moses Moody and Buddy Hield remain excellent fits in Orlando. Scenario 3, Mark Williams. Re-sign Jonathan Kuminga, 4 years, $100 million, starting salary $22.5 million. Trade Moses Moody, GS 2026 first to the Hornets for Mark Williams. Sign Bojan Bogdanovic using TPMLE, 1 year, $5.7 million. Sign Mason Plumlee, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Gary Payton II, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Pat Spencer, non-guaranteed 1 year, minimum salary. PG, Steph Curry, Pat Spencer. SG, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield, 41st overall pick. SF, Jimmy Butler, Bojan Bogdanovic, Gary Payton II. PF, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Gue Santos. C. Mark Williams, Quentin Post, Tracy Jackson Davis, Mason Plumlee. It's rare that the public knows what it would take to acquire a player via trade before it's happened, but the Hornets-Lakers Mark Williams trade at the deadline that was nixed by Los Angeles did just that. Charlotte was willing to move Williams for Dalton Knecht, a 2031 first-round pick and a 2030 first-round pick swap. There's no reason to believe Williams' value has increased since then. In fact, it's probably gone down simply because the Lakers flagged his physical. Nevertheless, Moses Moody is younger now than Dalton Knecht was before his NBA debut and is already a better player. While the Warriors' 2026 first-rounder is unlikely to fall into the lottery, It would give Charlotte another pick to work with in a draft that is currently viewed as having a strong class. The Hornets would surely be intrigued by this offer. In some ways Williams is an even more extreme version of Wagner. He's younger, 24, and has been even more productive, 15.3 points and 10.2 rebounds per game last season, but has horrendous defensive metrics and a concerning health history that already led one team to nix a trade. While Williams will not turn 24 until December, he has never appeared in more than 44 games in any of his 3 NBA seasons. Scenario 4, Robert Williams. Trade Moses Moody, Tracy Jackson Davis to the Trail Blazers for Robert Williams, GS 2028 second, POR 2032 second. Re-sign Jonathan Kuminga, 4 years, $100 million, starting salary $22.5 million. Signed to Anthony Melton with partial TPMLE, 1 year, $4 million. Signed Charles Bassey, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Kevin Looney, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Pat Spencer, non-guaranteed, 1-year minimum salary. PG, Steph Curry, DeAnthony Melton, Pat Spencer. SG, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield. SF, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga. PF, Draymond Green, Gue Santos, 41st overall. C, Robert Williams, Quinton Post, Kevin Looney, Charles Bassey. If the Warriors are unable to find a starting center they like in free agency, they will be at the whims of the trade market. If they re-sign Kuminga, they will be above the first apron and have even less flexibility in trades. So, it's very possible they could be backed into a corner where they trade Hield or Moody for far less than they'd like. Enter Robert Williams, whose salary the Warriors could still match as a first-apron team by aggregating Moody and Jackson Davis. Unlike some of the other centers in the Warriors' price range, Williams is an excellent rim protector and all-around defender. While he's not a shooting threat, Williams is an excellent rim runner and has a decent feel as a passer for a big man. Williams shares several similarities with former Warriors center Andrew Bogut. Parting with Moody and Jackson Davis, for a player on an expiring contract who has appeared in just 26 total games over the past 2 seasons would be difficult to stomach, but a healthy Williams would be an undeniably great fit in Golden State. The Blazers also have some future second-round picks they could send back as sweeteners to make it tolerable for the Dubs front office. Re-signing Looney and adding Charles Bassey, a 24-year-old who has been fourth center with the Spurs for the last 3 seasons, would provide the necessary injury insurance behind Williams at center. Since Kuminga and Williams' contracts are so sizable, the Dubs would have to choose between using the TPMLE and exceeding the second apron. A reunion with DeAnthony Melton makes all the sense in the world this offseason, but the question is whether he would be gettable on a minimum salary given his injury status. If they could sign him, Spencer, and Payton to fill out the roster above the second apron. If not, Melton would be worth some of the TPMLE. They could offer him slightly less than the full amount in this scenario. Scenario 5, Bradley Beal. Re-sign Jonathan Kuminga, 4 years, $100 million, starting salary $22.5 million. Sign Bradley Beal, 1 year, minimum salary. Trade Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, Tracy Jackson Davis, Gue Santos to the Trail Blazers for Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle, GS 2028 second, POR 2032 second. Sign DeAndre Jordan, 1 year, minimum salary. Sign Bol Bol, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Gary Payton 2, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Pat Spencer, non-guaranteed 1 year, minimum salary. PG, Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Pat Spencer. SG, Bradley Beal, Matisse Thybulle, 41st overall. SF, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga. PF, Draymond Green, Gary Payton 2, Bol Bol. C, Robert Williams, Quinton Post, DeAndre Jordan. The odds are Bradley Beal is not getting bought out with the Suns, in large part because he does not want to leave. However, let's say the Warriors are doing a bit of tampering. The Suns can offer Beal about $80 million to buy out the final 2 years and roughly $110 million of his contract. Potentially giving up $30 million is nothing to scoff at, but Beal is far from washed up. How much could Beal net in free agency next offseason, when far more teams are expected to have cap space, after playing on a contender alongside Curry, Butler, and Green? On paper, the Warriors are the best fit in the league for Beal, where he would immediately become their second-best scorer, provide plenty of spacing for Kuminga, Butler, and Green, while also joining a defensive scheme that should be well-equipped to make up for his shortcomings. If the Dubs were able to land Beal and retain Kuminga, they would have enough secondary scoring to prioritize defense with the rest of the roster. With that approach in mind, expanding a Moody for Williams deal to also bring Matisse Thybulle to Golden State makes a lot of sense. Thybulle may be the best wing defender in the NBA and is entering the final year of his contract. He has also developed into a viable three-point shooter. Injuries limited him to 15 games last season, but that was the first significant absence of his career. In this deal, the Blazers would turn Williams and Thybulle's expiring contracts into Moody and Flyers on Santos and Jackson Davis, while they could presumably swap Hield to a third team to recoup the second-round picks they sent to Golden State. The Warriors would push up against the second apron, which would be a hard cap for them after aggregating salaries in the deal with Portland. However, they would have enough space to retain Spencer, or another early career point guard, and replenish their frontcourt depth, adding a veteran rim protector in DeAndre Jordan alongside a younger stretch big in Bol Bol. Few scenarios are more unlikely than this one, but it's fun to think about what would be possible if the Beal domino fell. Scenario 6, Walker Kessler. Trade Moses Moody, 41st overall pick, GS 2026 first, right to swap GS 2029 first, right to swap GS 2031 first to the Jazz for Walker Kessler, Sviatoslav Mikhailiuk. Re-sign Jonathan Kuminga, 4 years, $100 million, starting salary $22.5 million. Sign Duncan Robinson using TPMLE, 1 year, $5.7 million with player option. Sign Delano Banton, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Kevin Looney, 1 year, minimum salary. Re-sign Gary Payton 2, 1 year, minimum salary. PG, Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Delano Banton. SG, Duncan Robinson, Buddy Hield. SF, Jimmy Butler, Sviatoslav Mikhailiuk, Gary Payton 2. PF, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Gue Santos. C, Walker Kessler, Quinton Post, Tracy Jackson Davis, Kevin Looney. There are few players in the league whose trade chances are harder to gauge than Walker Kessler. One of the best shot blockers in the league, Kessler has been held on to tightly by the Jazz in trade discussions over the years. However, his value has arguably plateaued after an excellent rookie season. With extension eligibility nearing, Utah could find itself in a difficult position. Kessler is a promising young player, but his production would seemingly put him in line for a deal paying at least $20 million per season. The advanced numbers are less keen on his impact, though. Turning Kessler into Moody, the 41st pick, a 2026 first, and an unprotected first-round swap in a likely post-Steph Curry future would be nothing to scoff at.